Let me greet the coordinator of the gender desk in this district, the district bishop, the district lay leader, mission secretary in the district, ministers present, and everybody who's here, guests from Sefi, Bongi, everybody. In Jesus' name I greet you. It is my joy to be part of this event of the launch of the desk. As Reverend Fumba said, it should have happened sometime in February, but because of my schedule, it didn't happen, and I'm thankful that you actually allowed me just to be part of this by postponing and all of that, because I really wanted to be present. Not that my presence is anything above everybody's presence, but because for me, this is where God is calling us, and I would always want to be where God is calling His people. I have been asked to make remarks and talk about the future a little bit, but I want to start from the past. I grew up in a place called Ikopo, which is a rural area. People in Ikopo mostly have their own farms, and there are no firms and factories, and people make their livelihood out of their own land, and that is how many families survive. People plow, people keep the livestock, and that is how life is where I grew up. So when I grew up, I grew up in a home where my father was not at home working somewhere in the city like it happens in many families. But my grandfather was a father figure in the family. And my grandmother was there, my mother was there, and we as children were there. In the Malinga home, all children were valued. In the Malinga home where I grew up, everything that needed to be done was done by everybody. My grandfather was particular when talking to me, because I am a firstborn. Other children were younger than me. And my grandfather would always say, I prayed for a grandchild, and God gave us you. And so you will do whatever my grandchildren are doing. And so when it was time for milking the cows, I had to do it, because that's what grandchildren did. When it was time to go and plow the fields, I was there. And when it was time to yoklagula, I don't know what in English that is, I was there. When there was need for water in the house, I was there. When there was need to cook, I was there. Because it needed to be done by children in the home. My brother was 6-7 years younger than me. When there was no water in the house, my brother took a bucket and get to the river and got the water, because water was needed in the house. Why am I telling you this story? I didn't know anything at the time about gender justice and gender injustice. But I was brought up in a home where I was valued. And that has stuck to me until I got outside of the home and found out that in some homes, children are not valued the same. Until I grew older and got to school and found out that there were things that were set aside for girls and things set aside for boys. I grew older and I got to work. I found out that the salaries for women are lower than salaries for men, even if they are doing the same job. I got to the church and I found out that my calling into the ministry was problematic for some men, because they believed that they were the only ones who could be called. So I am telling this story just to say, when we talk about gender injustice, gender discrimination, we're talking about something that in many homes is seen as a norm. It's something that in many organizations, institutions, is taken as a given. And therefore, when we talk then about advocating for gender justice, we are talking about a lot of work. And we are talking about something that is so ingrained in many of us, that even as we advocate, we need to be looking at ourselves and say, as I talk gender justice, do I live gender justice? As a parent, when I raise my girl child, what do I say to that child? When I raise a boy child, do I give equal value to my children? Do they grow up knowing that they are both loved and they are both having the same responsibilities and are able to do as God is calling them to do? So we are not here, friends, talking about something that is simple, that just will be sorted out with all the programs that we put in place, with the desks and so on. We're talking about something that actually is connected to the human scene. It's all. The human scene of a desire to dominate, which is in all of us, irrespective of the gender. In all human beings, there is a desire to dominate and be above somebody else, for various reasons. And so this is not a small matter. And this is not an isolated matter. It has intersections with so many other injustices that people are experiencing in life. When we talk gender justice, gender actually intersects with racial injustice. The breaking news for all of us who watch and listen to the news is the war in Ukraine. When it came to the Polish border, they are saying we are saving women and children. Right? But they have their understanding that a black woman is not really a woman. And so black women did not enjoy the safety that Poland is giving to women because they are black. And so they are not really women because of the color of their skin. Whether they die or whatever, it really doesn't matter. And so I'm trying to say, when we talk gender justice, it's not an isolated thing. When we talk gender justice, it's something very deep. And it's something that calls for each and every one of us to keep asking ourselves, what am I doing to contribute to this scene? Do I see, respond, engage with people of different genders in the same way? And if I don't want, then I need to deal with the why. So, having made that comment and remark, I have been then asked to make remarks about the future. Let me then start here by thanking Highveld and Eswatini Synod for adhering to the conference call of all districts having gender desks. For those who might not know, I see many people here are young. The call about this desk in the Methodist Church was first made in 2006. So it's not just a 2020 call. It was made in 2006 by the then presiding bishop, Ivan Abrams. Because when you talk gender, many people think you're not talking to them. It has not happened. It has taken us as a church something like 16 years to respond to that call. But anyway, we thank God that we are here. There are synods like Highveld and districts like Highveld and Swaziland and others that have heeded this call, and there's work that has started happening. And it is my prayer and hope that since the seed has been put on the ground, then that this tree will grow and bear fruit. As I say thank you to Highveld and Swaziland, I need to say that there are districts where these desks have not been put in place. Now, one of the constant confusion that one keeps hearing in the connection is why the need for gender desk when there are so many women's organizations Now when we talk the gender, we're not talking women. We're talking all human beings. All human beings are gendered, whatever their gender is. But there's this view that gender issues are women's issues. Hence, the hesitation in responding to the call of setting up these desks. To those who are listening, watching, gender is about all human beings, not women. And so I want to then emphasize that, of course, there are many definitions that people would give to what are we talking about when we're talking about gender justice, gender equality, and so on. My understanding of gender justice is that we are talking about ensuring that all genders, all people have equal value or are valued in the same way and have equal responsibilities and equal opportunities. All people are valued as full human beings, irrespective of their gender. Therefore, when we talk then about gender justice, as I have said, we're not talking about women's issues, even though the issues of women are part of gender issues. But we're talking about the value that is given to all human beings, young and old, people as created by God. And so that is what then we are talking about here. It is for that reason then that you find that in a number of districts where these desks have been set up, they are coordinated by women, and men stand far back because for many of them, this is not about them. I just want to commend Highveld and Eswatini. I want to say Swaziland. I know that word doesn't work anymore. I don't know how you did it to have Reverend Fumba coordinate this, but I want to commend that because for this district, therefore, this lie that gender issues are women's issues is dealt with directly by the person who's coordinating the desk. What then is the hope for the future that the Methodist Church has about these desks? What are we hoping to achieve? Let me highlight the fact that in this call, we are guided by our vision and mission as a church. A vision of a Christ-healed Africa for the healing of nations. We are guided by our mission statement of being called by Jesus Christ, by being called to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ for healing and transformation. We are guided by our immediate theme and call, where we are reimagining our role as a church in the society, where we believe and commit ourselves to be the agents of hope, the agents of healing, and the agents of transformation. And so through these desks then, we are continuing what we believe we are, who we believe that we are. We believe that we are the ones who are called to proclaim the kingdom of God in the world. And so we believe that we are called to participate in bringing about change for the better in the church and in the society. We believe that people of all genders are created in God's image and therefore are to be valued as such. Gender inequality or discrimination dehumanizes all, whether you are a perpetrator or you are a victim. When as a man you are able to say a woman is nothing because she's a woman, you're actually taking away from your manhood. You become less of a man. Because being fully man would mean that you are more like God, who has created men and women. And so it is about all of us. And so when we talk about gender justice, we talk about transformation and healing, we're talking about healing of all and humanizing all. Now, in the context of South Africa, even though we are a connection of 6 countries, in the context of South Africa, which has become #1 in the world in terms of gender-based violence and femicide, we would be failing in our task as preachers of the gospel if we ignore the issue of gender injustice and gender discrimination. And so we are then as a church participating. I'm saying participating because we're not the only ones who are concerned. We are all part of the humanity that is fighting this sin of discrimination and abuse and violence and domination of others. So then with the deaths, I will not then go into details here because Reverend Fumba has taken us through the objectives of this desk here. But in general, what has been mentioned here is that we are hoping that from the desks in the districts, the circuits and societies will then be linked closer with the work of firstly creating awareness, sensitizing people around the issues of gender injustice. As I'm saying, helping people to actually even think about their behaviors. Making people aware that some of the things that we say are normal, some of the things that we say are our cultures, our traditions, at their core, they are dehumanizing some people. And so let us examine our attitudes, our beliefs, our actions, our cultures, and so on, those that might be perpetuating discrimination. Sensitizing particularly those communities and organizations in the church where there is denial. Because it's so funny that as human beings we are so good in denying. Many within the church would deny that the church discriminates against women. They will say, not in our church, not in my society. and so on. And some would say, well, not in our organization. Our organization is amadoda phela, amadoda. So how would we discriminate? Funny. It's amazing how men can discriminate against each other. Go to women's organizations. Wow. We are just a women's organization. How can we discriminate against each other? Funny. Eh? And so, even in those places where we think we are safe, where we think we are not doing it, sensitization is important, because some things that we might think they are just tradition, we grew up doing this, and so why should it change in our time? Reimagine a different world where things are done differently, and you will see that actually many people were oppressed by things that we think are a tradition. So these desks then are expected to be the sensitizers in all circles within the church, so that within the church everybody would begin to say, where am I? What am I doing? It was Jesus who took his disciples aside and asked the question, who do people say that I am? And that question was so easy to answer until Jesus says, who do you say that I am? When we talk about discrimination of people, who are you? Who am I? That is where we need to get to. Because unless it starts with us as individuals, it's not going to happen. And so we expect then that these desks will sensitize, will advocate,